What are you looking at? InfoWars is a strange and unforgiving place to find oneself on the internet. A few years ago, they were pretty regularly mocked and disregarded since Alex Jones is pretty clearly either a nut or a disingenuous fearmongerer. His ramblings about globalism and every conspiracy theory under the sun have gone largely ignored for quite a while. That is, until this last election season. Nowadays, I keep seeing InfoWars-related content popping up everywhere. People are actually starting to take this website and its pundits seriously. I've encountered far too many anti-globalist pepes on Twitter in the past year and a half for my own good. Why is this? I thought most of us knew by now that InfoWars is devoid of any sort of truth. Well, ever since they jumped on the Trump train, it's been all downhill from there. They seem to have attracted an audience far outside of your average tinfoil hat-wearing stereotype and broken more or less into the mainstream. I also attribute InfoWars' success to a strapping young lad by the name of Paul Joseph Watson. Paul, who has initials that are one letter away from everyone's favorite buzzword, seems to be InfoWars' way of reaching out to the manosphere and other similarly disgruntled groups. His YouTube channel has exploded as well. His most popular videos are those beginning with the phrase, "the truth about." These videos generally contain a notable absence of truth. Paul spends most of his time in these videos making InfoWars' ludicrous beliefs about the world seem palpable to a more mainstream audience. Oddly enough, it seems to be working out pretty well for him. I've seen people refer to him as the good part of InfoWars, which just boggles my mind. I don't see how he's any different from any other journalist at InfoWars at all. He believes in many of the same conspiracy theories, he's just as unethical as a journalist, and he has a really hard time articulating his points without blaming everything on some conspiracy to destroy the West. Case in point, his complete lack of understanding of popular culture, a misunderstanding which I'm going to be responding to today. Be warned, this is a video which the Melon himself, who panders to the reactionary contingent of his audience on a regular basis, saw fit to call Paul out for.
Popular culture is more vulgar, vapid, self-absorbed, hedonistic, and dehumanizing than at any other time in living memory.
Looks like we've already got our thesis statement, although I'd probably cut back on the use of adjectives if I were him. I just need to ask though, is it really?
Culture is supposed to be uplifting. It's supposed to infuse our lives with intrigue, lust for knowledge, and appreciation of beauty.
Who said that's what culture is supposed to be? Who said culture needs to be anything at all? Google's dictionary definition of culture defines it as the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. Basically, culture is just the stuff humans do that we can preserve and look at. Memes are a pretty big cultural phenomenon right now. I'm sure you're a fan of a few of those. Have you ever seen a meme that uplifted you or infused your life with intrigue, lust for knowledge, and appreciation of beauty? Aside from Gabe the dog, I can't think of any. Culture can be whatever it wants to be. You don't get to call modern pop culture vapid because you think culture is supposed to be X, Y, and Z.
Instead, for the past 2 decades, pop culture has only served as a sewer pipe of projectile diarrhea aimed directly at our gawping mouths.
I wonder why he specifically focuses on the past 2 decades. That would be pop culture since the year 1997, though I'm pretty sure he'll be focusing more on the past 10 years in specific, given the clips he's played so far.
By its very definition, popular culture has always been mass-produced for mass consumption.
Paul is using the most popular definition of popular culture, which refers to mass media from the 20th century and onward that reflects the taste of ordinary people rather than elites. I'm going to be stretching the definition of popular culture somewhat in this video to encompass media, literature, and art that is or was popular at any point in history. I'm sure Paul's going to be a bit miffed at that given some stuff he says later.
But over the last 20 years, as I'm sure you've noticed,
implying we're all supposed to see the same things he does. Let me remind you, this guy writes for InfoWars. Forgive him if he gets a little bit fringe.
Pop culture has become significantly more vacuous and obscene.
More adjectives! Wait, what does that have to do with pop culture being mass-produced? Those two thoughts don't have any linkage.
It's a rancid assault on the senses.
If he thinks that about popular culture, wait till he gets his hands on BDSM culture.
Why is popular culture so contrived, plastic, empty, meaningless, grotesque,
Christ, Paul, I get it. Pop culture sucks and it's shitty. Get to the point.
and incredibly retarded? Because from the 20th century onwards...
Oh, of course, the next thing he cuts to is a picture of cultural Marx himself. I think we all know where this is going.
Postmodernist, moral relativist, critical theory espousing, cultural Marxist nihilists began to seize control of society.
That's a good one, Paul. That's a funny joke you got there. Oh, wait, you're you're serious because you write for InfoWars and everything is serious all the time, and you actually believe that popular culture is Marxist in any way, shape, or form. Seems to me like all the clips you've been playing, from reality TV to live music performances to gaudy talk shows, don't really seem to be advocating Marxism at all. Mass media like this is fundamentally driven by corporate interests, and multi-million-dollar companies put all that stuff together with the primary goal being to sell stuff. Seizing the means of production doesn't really seem to be on their agenda to me. Alright, let me get this off. It's hard to...
Postmodernism seeks to erase the distinction between high culture and popular culture.
Is that such a bad distinction to erase? Call me a postmodernist, moral relativist, critical theory espousing cultural Marxist nihilist all you like, but many of the elites in our society enjoy the same music, movies, television, and memes that we do. I'd say that distinction is already being erased.
They want to turn everything on its head.
The whole notion of high culture seems to be a bit patronizing, wouldn't you say? The idea that this culture is the stuff we elites like and you ordinary citizens just aren't educated enough to understand it. With access to education and other resources necessary to understanding high culture becoming far more accessible, why should we even bother making that distinction in the first place? Am I sounding too much like a Marxist for your tastes, Paul?
In simple terms, postmodernists have sought to reshape society in their image.
Seems like you want to reshape society in your image and stop the self-absorbed, vacuous, and obscene pop culture stuff, but whatever, keep projecting, I guess.
And that's why everything's so ugly. From architecture, to art, to music, to entertainment. They're making everything hideous.
The design of this building is cultural Marxism. Why is he comparing architecture to Nicki Minaj? I didn't know architecture was popular culture. That seems a bit niche to me. Also, I guess he didn't get the memo that art is subjective. I think those paintings look kind of cool, actually, but again, I don't think those were mass-produced for mass consumption. Your argument is getting a bit muddled. Do you really know for certain what popular culture is and isn't?
The goal? To completely undermine the foundation of Western civilization and leave us open to subversion and capitulation.
By building ugly buildings and singing songs about butts.
Look at television. TV's endless portrayal of broken families, emasculated male figures, and aberrant, nihilistic, droog-like youths.
TV shows have been portraying broken and dysfunctional families for more than just the past 2 decades. All in the Family is considered one of the greatest TV series ever made, and it portrayed a dysfunctional family all the way back in the 70s. Of course, there are plenty of TV shows about functional, not broken families, but a lot of them are horrifically boring. Do TV shows about divorced families or widowed parents really set you off that much? I would consider situations such as those an interesting jumping off point for some intriguing stories. How does a broken family deal with being broken? But I guess that's just Marxism again. As are these so-called emasculated male figures. Do male characters have to be masculine all the time? I hope not. Again, that just gets boring. Many good stories, whether they're on television or not, often challenge norms about character archetypes. That's the only way new possibilities can be opened up in story writing. Finally, I think you may be doing a bit of cherry picking with that bit about the droog-like youths. Not sure why he chose a word like youths. It's probably so he can put an extra bit of disgust in his voice when he says it.
Youths.
I've seen many a sitcom in my day featuring youth characters that are far from droog-like. That being said, I'm sure they're degenerate in other ways that I'm just not seeing.
The stars of so-called reality television are virtually always narcissistic, amoral, and borderline insane. They have no redeeming traits.
I suppose if there had to be a line where high and low culture were separated, it would be reality television. At least reality television of the sort Paul is describing. He seems to leave out reality TV like American Idol or The Amazing Race, which tend to be more wholesome than the Kardashians or the Real Housewives of wherever the hell. Does Kelly Clarkson have no redeeming traits? She just seems like a bog standard pop star to me. Paul and I both have problems with reality TV, though I'd assume our problems are pretty different. He sees Keeping Up with the Kardashians as an attack on Western values, whereas I just see it as massively unfulfilling.
Indoctrinating us with the idea that this is actual reality. That this is how we should act too.
You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs.
Dude, everyone knows reality TV isn't real. I can't think of a single reality TV show that hasn't been caught up in some sort of scandal relating to its stars, producers, crew, or whatever.
In the decadent late stages of a society, bizarre behaviour proliferates and is legitimised by the dominant culture. They're fetishizing pathology.
Paul's consonants are starting to grate on me. I couldn't put this much sneer in my voice if I tried. Also, I guess gender ambiguity is pathology. Was it pathology when Prince and David Bowie did it? Who am I kidding? It probably was.
We're even seeing the mainstreaming of paedophilia by the news and entertainment media. Salon.com giving a platform to a wannabe child molester. Articles that legitimize watching child porn.
I think one of your own guys landed into a bit of hot water the other day for legitimizing pedophilia himself, didn't he? He had a book deal canceled and he resigned from his job at Breitbart because he defended pedophilic relationships as being something which help young boys discover who they are. I think you know who I'm referring to, because you defended him on Twitter.
A new Fox show that shows a transgender 6-year-old wearing a sadomasochistic ball gag. This is all intended to drag us down into the gutter.
Can someone actually tell me what show this is? I haven't been able to find out, and I'm wondering if there's any context to this that Paul has simply declined to provide.
Once we absorb this kind of degeneracy, our moral filter is irreparably damaged.
You seem to have gone and watched a lot of this sort of stuff in preparation for this terrible video and turned out more or less the same as you were when you started.
Studies show that the more TV you watch, the more depressed you are. Even for active people who exercise regularly.
It seems to me like that study only implies a correlation between depression and television watching. I mean, you know, you've probably heard this before, but correlation doesn't imply causation. How do you know it's not the other way around? That the more depressed you are, the more television you watch? There's really no way to know. You're just using this study to push your agenda. I thought that was the sort of thing we leftists did, but, you know, you learn something new every day.
And is it really any wonder, given the warped and corrosive view of humanity that is perpetuated by television?
By which you mean a small fragment of the large variety of television that exists, which you've now depicted as being the entirety of television. Nice work.
Popular culture is also hypersexualized. It's not prudish to observe that the sexual imagery we're bombarded with by television is infinitely more gratuitous than it was just 25 years ago. Even pornography itself is becoming uglier and nastier.
It's no secret that the porn industry is riddled with corruption. All multi-million-dollar industries are. It's odd to me, however, that you seem to be making this argument against the current portrayal of sexualized women in media. It's interesting because it's an argument second-wave feminists made a lot back in their time. Unless second-wave feminism is the good feminism to you, it's odd to see you, a neo-reactionary conservative type with no clear understanding of the reasons why sex sells, on the side of second-wave feminists.
It's documented that this hypersexualization process has normalized cheating and betrayal.
I can count the amount of conservative, family values espousing politicians who have normalized cheating and betrayal by means of affairs, divorce, prostitution scandals, and God knows what else on both my hands and still have enough names to start counting on my goddamn toes.
It's this, oh, everyone else is doing it, so why not me mentality. Hypersexuality in popular culture leads to ruined relationships and failed marriages.
This argument that consuming hypersexual media leads to breakups and divorces feels oddly similar to the argument that video games make people more violent. I wonder what Paul's evidence is for that assertion. Does he have some deep, dark secrets he's not letting us in on?
Pop culture is making us miserable and lonely.
Have you ever thought that if pop culture makes you feel this way, you could just not take part in it? If you don't like certain media, why bother continuing to consume it? I'd probably get pretty miserable and lonely doing that.
Look at the cult of celebrity. Being famous used to require having actual talent, even as recently as 20 years ago. Now, the measure of fame a celebrity achieves is directly proportionate with the volume of tasteless debauchery that they inflict on the world. Vulgarity has replaced talent. The more vulgar and ostentatious, the better.
Once again, you're cherry-picking celebrities you deem to be tasteless while ignoring plenty of celebrities with a pretty incredible amount of talent. Actors, musicians, comedians, writers, you seem to be glossing over those sorts of people and jumping straight to the bottom of the barrel. Pop culture is more than its worst offenders, you know.
Thanks to social media, young people have been indoctrinated into this idea that narcissism, not fulfillment, not meaning, not authenticity, but narcissism is the ultimate measure of satisfaction and importance.
How dare the youths use Snapchat filters and feel confident in their appearances?
Celebrity is just a reflection of that. So what do we look for in our celebrities? Talent? Meaning? Authenticity? No. We look for narcissism.
A lot of people look to celebrities for those first three things. You're really missing out on quite a good bit of pop culture with this strict definition of celebrity that's pretty similar to your definition of reality TV star. Also, didn't you just support a narcissistic celebrity for president?
When 16-year-olds were asked in a survey, what would you like to do for your career? 54% answered, become a celebrity. Yet nearly 70% of them had no idea whatsoever how they would achieve this.
Of course they don't. The survey said, what would you like to do? It's no surprise to me that people would like to be celebrities. I mean, wouldn't everybody want to be a celebrity? But nobody seriously plans out a career path with the specific intent of, at the end of it, being a celebrity, because people know that's not gonna happen. I mean, if the survey said, what do you plan on doing for your career, or something more grounded in realism, then maybe the answers would be a bit different, don't you think?
It's no surprise that since the explosion of celebrity-led narcissism, young people are more depressed than ever. Suicides amongst those aged 10 to 24 are up every year since 2010.
You seem to have forgotten to provide evidence of a correlation between so-called celebrity-led narcissism and increased suicide rates. Although I did just cut you off, so maybe you'll provide it now.
Why are you all so unhappy? Because you're aspiring to something completely vacuous and unobtainable for the vast majority of people.
I guess not. Depression is a bit more complicated than that, Paul. Seems pretty insensitive to say the reasons the suicide rates are going up is because of celebrities and not depression.
Popular culture is making us miserable.
Didn't you say that already?
Celebrities are now more revered than religious icons.
Wouldn't you rather have Kanye West over Muhammad? I'm just asking because I can't tell if you hate Muslims more than celebrities or vice versa.
This is why people suddenly turn into gushing morons whenever a celebrity dies, rendered blubbering idiots over somebody they never knew and never even met. In many cases, someone they weren't even interested in until they died. It's like North Korean competitive crying every other week.
I'm not sure you could have picked a more esoteric comparison if you tried. I almost feel bad for you, Paul. You seem to have never had the experience of coming into contact with a person's body of work that affects you so profoundly that you feel a part of yourself die when they do. It's something you can't understand until it happens, really. But instead of empathizing with that, you just continue to sneer. Look at all these people expressing grief at the death of someone who changed their lives in a profound way. You're kind of a dick, man.
And look at celebrities who wake up from their coma and use their platform to bite the hand that feeds them by questioning what they're a part of.
I've got one that can see.
When Kanye went off script and started decrying the popular culture he once served, they put him in a psych ward.
Cause y'all been lied to. They can't play what they want to play because they've been paid to play that bullshit over and over and over.
He was also exhausted from all the touring he was doing and had a bit of a serious mental collapse, but sure, keep being conspiratorial. Did I mention this guy writes for InfoWars?
Look at how the custodians of pop culture treat celebrities who think for themselves or who challenge the status quo. They're immediately dispensed with because the entire scam is dependent on a complete lack of diversity, a vicious intolerance of anything that's truly original or unpredictable. That's why popular culture is so sterile.
It seems like you're defining conservatism as being somehow not the status quo. Oh yeah, you've been on a bit of a diatribe lately about how conservatism is the new counterculture. Even though many of the most powerful countries on earth are run by majority conservative governments. I'm sensing a bit of cognitive dissonance there. You really think you're punk rock? Because let me tell you, you're not punk rock. I'm in a teddy bear onesie and I'm more punk rock than you.
And you know, it's ironic that one of the most popular talent shows is called The X Factor, given that the introduction of actual X factors, i.e. unknown quantities, into the system would cause it to collapse.
I'm gonna be honest, I just don't know what the hell he's talking about right there.
Look at popular music.
Okay, here comes my strong suit, let's go!
The same handful of people writing and producing songs for the same handful of popular artists.
If you're talking about top 40 pop music, I'd agree with you. But there's so much more to the world of popular music than just that. What about hip-hop? rock music, the ever-popular tradition of the singer-songwriter, and even other sorts of pop music like art pop and indie pop, which are currently seeing pretty huge resurgences.
Why do you think everything sounds the same? The same procession of electronic beats, repeated hooks, and verbal diarrhea that passes for popular music now?
This assertion is straightforwardly misguided. You sound like a 13-year-old who only listens to The Doors and the Jimi Hendrix Experience because they were born in the wrong generation. In other words, you sound like me as a 13-year-old. There's so much good music that's come out in the past 20 years, much of which is very popular music, that you're just completely tossing to the wayside. Oh, and you played a clip from a dubstep show? I'm pretty sure that's not a top 40 pop song.
Music is less diverse, and the lyrics are more dumbed down than ever before.
Okay, now we've moved on from popular music and you're just saying music. If you're going to sit back and say that music is less diverse than ever, in a world where I would say on the contrary that there are more bands, artists, songwriters, and composers pushing the boundaries of music than at any other point in human history, I've got no choice but to just not take you seriously. Good thing I've never taken you seriously.
And the lyrics are more dumbed down than ever before.
Man, rap today fucking sucks bad. They're not even saying words anymore. They just got a hard-ass fucking beat to trick dumbasses like you to make you think you like the shit.
I need a minute.